From North America's dense forest to the Himalayas' isolated highlands, stories of strange creatures that lurk just beyond the veil of our understanding have been passed down through generations. These cryptids, based between the realms of myth and reality, are a tapestry woven from the fears, folklore, and whispers of our cultures worldwide. Are these beasts mere legends born of superstition, or do they hide in the dark corners of our world, waiting for the moment they are finally revealed? The hunt for answers begins. But remember, some things are better left undisturbed. Welcome to Myth and Lores, a journey into the dark and divine. Without further ado, let's jump into another lore. The Wendigo has become a profoundly unsettling figure in modern horror, evolving from a regional myth into a global symbol of fear, greed, and monstrous transformation. Its depiction in horror media varies widely, but it typically retains core elements of the original lore: an insatiable hunger, the loss of humanity, and an overwhelmingly malevolence. Over time, the Wendigo has come to represent not just a supernatural threat, but a reflection of humanity's darkest impulses. We will explore how the Wendigo is portrayed in horror, focusing on traditional and modern interpretations. Classic horror elements and Wendigo depictions. 1. Insatiable hunger and cannibalism. The most iconic trait of the Wendigo is this endless, all-consuming hunger, which is often portrayed as a grotesque drive to consume human flesh. In horror depictions, this hunger is not just physical. It is a metaphor for addiction, obsession, or greed. The Wendigo can never be satisfied. This eternal craving drives it to hunt and kill. This portrayal taps into primal fears of starvation, the violation of the body, and moral corruption. 2. Supernatural transformation. In some horror stories, the Wendigo is a former human corrupted by greed and cannibalism, turning into a supernatural creature. This transformation is usually portrayed as horrific, with the human's body becoming gaunt, emaciated, and monstrous. The Wendigo may exhibit animalistic features such as antlers, claws, or a terrifying elongated form, sometimes covered in frost or ice to signify its cold, hunger-driven existence. The idea that a human can lose their humanity and become a monstrous entity plays into horror's fascination with identity, corruption, and the fragility of the human soul. 3. Isolation and psychological horror. The Wendigo is often associated with remote, isolated environments such as deep forests or frozen wilderness, amplifying the horror of being stranded with an entity that embodies both physical and psychological terror. The central theme is the fear of being hunted, stalked, and consumed by an unseen force in the wild. Horror stories featuring the Wendigo frequently emphasize the madness that isolation can induce, with characters experiencing paranoia, delusion, and despair as they confront the creature or their dark tendencies. 4. Paranoia and the fear of becoming one. The fear of transformation into a Wendigo is a recurring theme in horror. The idea that a person could be driven to cannibalism by extreme hunger and in doing so lose their humanity plays into existential fears. What if the thing we fear most, becoming a monster, was already inside of us? This fear is often portrayed in stories where characters stranded in the wilderness or suffering from starvation begin to doubt their sanity and moral compass. Could they be the next Wendigo? Could they succumb to the same fate? In contemporary horror, the Wendigo has evolved into a symbol of broader societal anxieties, often reflecting themes of greed, environmental destruction, and the collapse of civilization. Here are a few key ways in which the Wendigo is portrayed in modern horror. Psychological horror and allegory. Many modern depictions of the Wendigo lean heavily into psychological horror, with the creature often representing addiction, mental illness, or the consequences of unchecked desires. For example, the Wendigo can symbolize the destructive effects of greed, showing how it gnaws away at a person's humanity until they are nothing more than a ravenous beast. In these stories, the Wendigo isn't just a monster. It is a mirror for the darkest side of human nature, showing how something as simple as survival or desire can spiral into horrific extremes. For example, in The Ritual in 2017, a group of friends venture into a remote Scandinavian forest and are stalked by an ancient, malevolent entity. The film subtly suggests that the Wendigo-like creature manifests human greed as the characters are tested by their past decisions, which involve betrayal and selfishness. The forest is a place of physical and psychological isolation, and the creature is an extension of the character's inner demons. The Wendigo as a monster. In many horror movies, the Wendigo is depicted as a terrifying, physical entity, often with supernatural powers. The creature may appear as an enormous, twisted figure with glowing eyes, antlers, sharp claws, and the ability to freeze its victims in fear or even mimic human voices. The Wendigo in these depictions is often a physical force of nature, stalking its prey with relentless hunger and predatory cunning. Its supernatural qualities may include superhuman strength, control of their environment, such as summoning snowstorms or creating freezing temperatures, or possessing and controlling people. In the movie Antlers in 2021, the Wendigo is portrayed as a grotesque, horned creature that embodies both physical horror and psychological torment. The film explores the idea of human corruption and the consequences of trauma, with the Wendigo manifesting both the literal and metaphorical hunger that plagues the characters. As the story unfolds, the Wendigo's horrific transformation reflects how consuming trauma and abuse can turn a person into something monstrous. Another modern interpretation of the Wendigo focuses on environmental horror. In these depictions, the Wendigo symbolizes nature's wrath and the destructive consequences of humanity's exploitation of the earth. The Wendigo becomes a vengeful spirit of the wild, punishing those encroaching on its domain. It also represents the darkness that festers in the places we have abandoned or forgotten, the wilderness, reclaiming its power over those who venture too far. In reference to another example, the horror video game Until Dawn 2015 features a Wendigo-like creature that results from a dark ritual gone wrong in the mountains. The creature hunts and possesses humans, turning them into mindless killers. The game draws on themes of isolation, sin, and the corrupting influence of greed as the characters uncover the bloody history behind the Wendigo's existence in the remote mountains. In some contemporary horror stories, the Wendigo's true horror is psychological rather than physical. The creature may not be seen directly, but its presence is felt through the character's growing paranoia, fear, and madness. This interpretation plays with the idea that the Wendigo exists as a manifestation of mental breakdown, driving people to commit acts of violence or cannibalism, often through visions, hallucinations, or whispers. In The Last Winter, 2006, the Wendigo is hinted at as a supernatural force tied to the land, influencing the characters' minds and perceptions of reality. The tension and fear come not just from a physical monster, but from the characters' slow psychological unraveling as they are affected by the harsh conditions and their growing sense of isolation in the remote Arctic landscape. The legacy and enduring power of the Wendigo in horror. The Wendigo has proven to be an adaptable figure in horror, transcending its cultural origins to become a versatile symbol of various fears. Whether it's the fear of isolation, the consequences of greed, or the primal terror of losing one's humanity, the Wendigo taps into universal themes that remain compelling in modern horror. Its grotesque hunger, supernatural power, and ability to transform people into monstrous beings make it one of the most enduring cryptid figures in the genre. In horror films, books, and games, the Wendigo often challenges the character's moral integrity, sense of survival, and ultimately, very identities. It's a creature that blurs the lines between human and monster, a relentless force that makes us question how thin that line really is. That concludes this lore. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next lore. Bye.